So I live in a country where I was lucky enough to see the new Mortal Kombat movie in IMAX a week before its initial US release date.
Nice.
Fight!
Now I have to be honest and say that I've never really played the games myself. I've only ever watched others play it, and I learned about the story and characters through that. I'm not a hardcore fan, so when the film was announced I wasn't really on the hype train. I was just like, okay. But then the first trailer dropped and I was pleasantly surprised. It actually looked pretty good. Way better than this. And that.
Mother. You're alive. Too bad you will die.
So I guess it's safe to say that it caught my attention in a good way.
To fight for something known. As Mortal Kombat.
So long story short, I bought my tickets. But it wasn't really out of excitement, but rather curiosity. This movie had the potential to be really good or really bad, so I went in with no expectations. It was awesome.
Round 1.
So the film follows Cole Young, an MMA fighter who is chosen alongside others to compete in a brutal battle for the universe against the opponents of the Outworld. Tsung sends his best fighters to kill the Earth's opponents to give him the advantage before the ultimate battle. This is the most basic plot summary of the movie. To be honest, I didn't know what to expect in terms of story for a film based on a fighting game, but they made the effort to explain the world and the characters a bit. The fighters are chosen and identified by the dragon symbol, which looks like it's burnt into their skin.
Oh, that's hot.
The movie jumps between the Earthrealm and Outworld, where we get to see a few familiar characters in iconic arenas, but only for brief moments. And this is where it gets a bit weird. The editing choices. I found it a bit jarring when a scene would just abruptly end and move on to the next. This happened a few times when a character would just finish talking, and less than a second later we're thrown into the next scene on a different planet. Now I know this might be just a small nitpick, but it can affect the pacing of the movie. That brings me to my next point, and that is the runtime of the film. With a big lineup of characters and backstory to fill 1 hour and 50 minutes, it felt a bit rushed. But this doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, it's just that I honestly believe this movie could have been 30 to 40 minutes longer. I understand it's trying to go for a fast-paced style from the games, but I would have loved to get to know the characters a bit more. There are a lot of scenes where characters talk about their relationships with each other, as well as their past, but we don't get to see any of it. And unfortunately, there are characters who are just introduced to be killed off a few scenes later. I feel as though they could have at least given us a few flashbacks or quick training scenes to show what they are capable of before fighting our main cast of fighters. But besides that, I really like the overall story. It's clear and concise and gets straight to the point. I like that the film follows an MMA fighter who isn't as good as he used to be, on his journey to become a warrior who needs to protect his family as well as the Earthrealm. All of the main cast of characters have an arc that they fulfill in ways that are satisfying.
Flawless victory.
Round 2.
Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Shang Tsung, Liu Kang, Kung Lao, Lord Raiden, Kano, Jax, Sonya Blade, Melina, Goro, Natara, Raikou, Cabal, and Reptile all make an appearance, as well as a new character to the MK world and the main protagonist of the film, Cole Young. Now I know it might seem like a small lineup, but I think it's more than enough for the 1 hour and 50 minutes runtime. Most of the main characters do get their moment to shine in the fights. For me, Sub-Zero and Scorpion stood out from the rest in terms of dramatic character development. I loved every scene either of them were in, and the film does a pretty good job establishing and explaining the feud and history of the two characters in a beautifully epic opening scene, which I will get into in a moment. Cole Young is a new character created for the movie, and his whole arc is pretty interesting. I won't spoil anything, but his whole bloodline and ancestors play a big part in the film. But he's basically just a normal guy who is trying to take care of his family. He is thrown into the situation where he needs to fight not only for his family's life and freedom, but also for everyone on Earth. Shang Tsung feels like a much bigger threat than he did in the 1995 version.
Your brother's soul is mine.
He does sit around most of the time while sending his best fighters to Earth to kill the others, but that doesn't mean he has nothing to do. He does, however, have his own brutal moment to shine, which I won't spoil. You also get the sense that he and Raiden had a past, and so whenever they are on screen together, you feel the tension. I just have to give props to Josh Lawson, who was a real treat to watch. He stole every scene he was in. He does an amazing job at portraying the fun and cocky personality of Kano.
Kano wins. You fucking beauty.
He is also the comedic relief and has some of the funniest lines in the movie. But he can also get real serious when the scene demands it, and so it never feels out of place. Now, he doesn't have his iconic look from the games in the movie, but something happens and there is no doubt he will be back in the sequel with his robot laser eye. Like I said, some characters are introduced just to be killed off, and it's a bit disappointing, but that doesn't mean the way they get killed is.
Final round. Fatality!
Just like the games, this movie is violent. When they said they were gonna push the R rating to the limit, they were not kidding. Fans of the games will be happy to see some of the iconic fatalities done in live action. My personal favorite involves Kung Lao,
Kung Lao wins. Fatality.
and that's all I'm gonna say. The fights are fair, and the characters who are pitted against each other have the potential to win, so the stakes are high. But I know what you're thinking, and that is the hero cast will survive because of plot armor. But I will Uno reverse your ass and say no. There are some major character deaths, and some of them come out of nowhere. So it's not like the heroes have the upper hand. It really feels as though anyone can die at any point during the fights. The fight scenes between Sub-Zero and Scorpion are just an epic feast for your eyeballs. And that should come as no surprise when you actually cast martial artists in the roles. The opening fight scene with Scorpion might be my favorite, with well choreographed moves and good camera work where you can actually see what's going on. It really sets the tone for the rest of the film, and it's just really well done. So what do I think about Mortal Kombat 2021? It's good. Personally, I think it could have been way better if it were longer and took the time to flesh out the characters a bit more, but that's just me. I really enjoyed this, and I think fans of the games will love this as well. And if you're not in any way familiar with the games or characters or lore, and just want a good and fun action movie, then you'll most likely enjoy this too.